Hi everybody, let's do an update on the expansion. So I've got all the foam in, I've got it painted. We had some latex paint in the garage, so I just went ahead and used it just to get rid of the green color. Got my little extension in down at the end. Don't know what I use it for. Might be like a N&W interchange run or something, not sure. I've got some track and turnouts. Again, selling those 2 locomotives allowed me to go ahead and do it. Didn't pay for all of it, paid for most of it. Got 10 pieces of Pico code 55 and 6 turnouts, and I already had half a dozen turnouts, so should get me well on my way. I don't know if it's going to be everything, but it'll get me getting well on my way. I went ahead and filled in this corner right here, and so that's the amount of space I'm going to have. Again, I didn't want to come out here because I mean I shouldn't have to reach back here, but I mean that's the length that's as far as I can reach. Shouldn't have to reach back there, but I didn't want to come out any farther than that. And of course I will put a fascia on this, and I will put a valance on the top when I'm done. Fascia just get in my way of wiring if I did it now. We'll talk a little bit about the foam I used, a couple things I learned. So my local Lowe's sells the green foam in 2 foot by 2 foot sections and 4 by 8 sheets. So when I first wanted to come at the end of Chillicothe, I just bought a little 2 foot by 2 foot section. It actually ends about right here, and I cut it to shape. Put it in there, glued it to the plywood, glued it in there. What I didn't realize was that it's different thickness than the 4 by 8 sheet. So let me show you the difference in thickness right here. So what that meant was it didn't match up really well here. So I had to go in, I sanded it a little bit, and I basically got some drywall compound, and I smoothed out the joint. I don't think it's going to make a big difference, and once I'm done, I don't think it's going to make any difference when I'm done. I'll show you one other thing I learned here. So the foam comes, there's one side that has like embossed printing on it, and the other side just is plain. Well, I did not realize that the printing was actually like stamped in. Maybe I should have realized it, just never did. So you can see these ridges here, that's where the printing is. I don't think it's going to make any difference really in the final product, you know, I mean, but if I had paid attention to that, I would have definitely put this side down. So if you're going to use green foam in your layout, definitely glue this side down. Again, don't think once I'm done, you're never going to know. I may have done the same thing on Chillicothe or Oak Hill. I mean, but it won't make a difference. But go ahead and glue that side, embossed side down. I found some more information about this photograph. It was taken in 1953 by a B&O policeman, obviously from an airplane. One of the things I think is really interesting about is if you go from the roundhouse, all these buildings are interconnected. You could walk from this part of the roundhouse all the way down to here without going outside. And in my book by a local historian, John Grabb, the late John Grabb, he actually has these numbered as to what they were. So starting with the roundhouse and the turntable, obviously. This is the foundry. The next building is the erecting shop, the one that sort of goes this way. That connects to the machine shop, which is the long one with all the vents on top of it. And after that is the steam power plant, one that has smoke belching out of it, which makes sense. And then the blacksmith shop is right down here. So in 1953, all this stuff was being used anyhow. And obviously, I think they're still burning coal in the to provide power with everything. So I'm going to see if I can get a historical aerial shot without all the watermarks on it. I'm going to actually see if I can buy one to show you this scene at a later date. So I went to the Historic Aerials website, and pretty easy to use, really. And they had a bunch of pictures of this dating back even farther. This picture was taken in 1960. Pretty good resolution. It's actually better than the next one I'm going to show you. It was $10. I got the lowest resolution digital print I could. I could have spent $90 and got a really high resolution one, but I don't know that I really needed it looking straight down on top. If I could have got a high resolution one looking at the outside of the roundhouse, I might have done it. Here's the roundhouse, obviously 1960s, still there. This is actually the coaling tower, still there. You can see the shadow of it. They tore it down in 1960. This is the boneyard down here. Shop tracks. I think it's interesting that all these cars are spaced out like that. So I don't really understand the purpose of that. Why they're all like evenly spaced out. If there was some kind of work going on, I don't know. I'd love to find out. Water treatment plant. These are the buildings I took a picture of. They were still there with the old company stores, boxcar loading. Two buildings here that are still there. Now this building and this building here, the little building on the side is now a ghost building. It's just, you can see the outline of the paint. But, and of course, everything was still there. I'm not seeing any smoke belching out like we did before. So maybe they had either shut it down at this point, or they'd switched to maybe the city electricity or something. So let's look at the 1971 photo now to see the difference. So here's 1971. Obviously, roundhouse been torn down. I keep saying it had 3 stalls. It looks to me like more like it might have had 5 stalls, just judging by 4 or 5, judging by the spacing in through here. It could have been 3. I can't really tell, but regardless, my roundhouse is going to have 3 because I need to compress it anyhow. Again, the building that he says was the foundry in the old shot is right here. It's still there, but all these other buildings are gone through here. Looks like maybe people actually parking cars there. So they're the guys that work in the shops, because the shops are still open. This is the, the transfer table between the two. They could get, so the cars would be pushed in through here on the transfer table, and the table would run this way and, transfer them. Still, there's cars here, parked down here, that are sort of evenly spaced. So I would love to know. Looks like they're obviously uncoupled. Some of them are, but I'd love to know what they're doing there. Water treatment plant was still there, and actually as a kid, me and my buddies went up in it. It was abandoned. No longer had the steam, the coaling tower was no longer here. But amazingly, we didn't get killed or hurt, because remember the ceiling was caved in on it. If I remember right, this would have been in 73, 74. We moved into the side of town in 75, so it would have been before that. And probably when I was 13, 14, we didn't hang out here as much as we did when we were littler. So I'd say this is about the era I was hanging out there. Doesn't look, this might be a diesel here, but this is the servicing racks for the diesel fueling and everything. And there's a few cars in the yard. Looks like there's a train on the main line as well. So this will help me out, making my spacing and everything. Like I said, the turntable stayed in service till the very end in the early 80s. So let me show you how I'm going to model the turntable, at least what I've got it done on it so far. So I said I was going to show you the turntable. I'm actually going to show you the roundhouse. I just misspoke. So this is the unmodified Atlas. If I'd built it like that, it would not have looked like Chillicothe. So this is actually the back wall, which I'm not going to use. So this is the other wall that I am going to use. Now remember, the foundry came out here. So I went ahead and put those windows in there for now, but I don't know if I mean, it's going to be facing toward the back of the layout anyhow. I don't know if you'll see them, but I am going to try to have a representative of the foundry in there. It may actually be up to the front. I'll show you how I think it's going to fit in the layout here pretty soon. Again, so I had to cut off the wall. Those white strips along the top are to support the roof, and I'll have to have some supports in the middle because the supports that came with the kit aren't going to work since I cut the roof down. I am not going to use this base. This base was meant to use with that was turntable, which is a surface mount. So I'm just going to put this on like a little thin piece of styrene. And this is not going to be operational at all. I may have one door partially cracked open or something. I don't know, maybe show some semblance of an interior, but they didn't use it. It's pretty much abandoned. So it's just going to be a scenic element. This wall, best I can remember, I haven't found any pictures yet, don't know if I ever will, was just black. I used N-Scale Architect, some concrete block, laminated to styrene like I did to build Cedar Heights clay. Put windows in it. Don't know if they had windows. If they did, they probably weren't the same windows as the rest of it. But I went ahead and I thought, well, maybe they salvaged the windows from it and put some in. Add a little bit of interest to it. And the back is just, again, not going to be seen really. It's just tacked up there right now. I had to cut all the walls down. I had to scratch build this wall, basically. I think it's going to go in about like this. Turntable's going here. I ordered a Pico turntable, small, probably smaller than the one in Chillicothe. The Walther's turntable is very big. I mean, it's like a foot in diameter. I mean, I would barely have room to put it in here. Chillicothe never had any articulated locomotives. About 282 is about the biggest steam engines they use in Southern Ohio on the B&O. Now, the NW had Class A's running on it between Portsmouth and Columbus, but the B&O never used articulateds in Southern Ohio. So, again, it's just going to be a scenic element. It's not going to be powered, not going to be used at all. I mean, I might be able to spin it by hand, but I'm not intending to use either of these at all. It's just going to be, like I said, scenic elements. So it's going to sit about like this, turntable here. I'll have probably some representation of the foundry coming off over here. And of course, it's not going to be exactly right, but it'll be close. I've got track. I just have those two tracks sitting there right now. Excuse me. I'm probably going to try to figure out where to put the crossover in. Of course, I want it to be as close to the curve as I can, because then when it crosses over, I'm going to have a section of straight track before it can go into the yard, start into the yard ladder. So I don't want to have some big S curve there by running back-to-back turnouts, you know. So, but I will post an operations video this weekend, and I'll get to work on this, and maybe have another update in a week or so. Everybody stay safe.